Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I am an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about Jupiter's ingress in Gemini and the aspects it's going to make with the slow-moving planets. Now, usually Jupiter changes sign once a year, giving it a specific color, and in this case it will stay in Gemini from May 26, 2024 to June 9th, 2025. Now, as always, let's try first to understand the forces of Jupiter in Gemini. Now, Jupiter is the planet of expansion, growth, and abundance. And this means that, generally speaking, it will expand the energies of the sign, in this case, the energies of Gemini. Now, what are they? What are the Gemini forces all about? Gemini represents any form of interconnection of infrastructure aimed at creating a network of some kind, of any kind. And this means that Jupiter in Gemini tends to expand communication in every area, creating new infrastructures, new forms of interconnecting, basically anything. And in general, it is the market to benefit from this expansion, from this interconnection, being Gemini, the zodiac sign of the market itself. So Jupiter here will lead to increase any form of trading, and that's definitely good, but also any phenomena of speculation, which of course can also affect financial markets. So we have this general meaning of playing the stock market here, which is going to expand, to grow. However, this also is going to affect the market, not necessarily in a good way. Now, this playing the stock market, this element of playing, is another Gemini signification. So playing, but also the entertainment industry, these are significations belonging to Gemini. So we have again an expansion in this regard, an expansion of this industry and the introduction of new forms of entertainment. So this means that these markets are called to renew themselves in a way or another. And this, of course, involves the introduction of new technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality. Yes, they're not new, but with this transit, a door opens to really change the industry in this regard. However, we also need to remember that at the moment, Saturn is in Pisces, and Saturn here basically is preventing an excess of escapism that these technologies may provide, because Saturn is here denying this trait of Pisces, this element of escapism, of escaping reality. So for this reason, this effect of Jupiter in Gemini on the world of entertainment is limited for now. But in general, we can say that this transit will be a favorable boost to the industry that is called to renew itself here. Now, from a more spiritual perspective, this year will be favorable for Hermeticism, specifically the spiritual stream, because any spiritual impulse developing one of the three Hermetic sciences are going to receive this oomph from Jupiter. So the three Hermetic sciences are astrology, alchemy, and magic. And they are called Hermetic sciences because Hermes Trismegistus was great in these three sciences. Now, why is that? Why are we talking here specifically about Hermeticism? This is because Jupiter is in Gemini, and Gemini is the sign ruled by Mercury. And who's Mercury? Mercury is Hermes. It is the great initiate of this spiritual stream of Hermeticism. The name comes from Hermes, which is Mercury. And not only that, but Jupiter is also going to be at the same time not only in Gemini, but in the starry image of Taurus. And thanks to anthroposophy, we know that the Egyptian Chaldean culture corresponds to the so-called astrological age of Taurus. Now, what does this mean? So as you may know, we are now in the so-called astrological age of Pisces. We're not in the astrological age of Aquarius yet, and any of these ages has a task of developing a specific spiritual impulse. Now, for example, the Pisces age we're in is supposed to be developing science, right? But back in ancient Egypt, during the Taurus age, another impulse was developed, and that was precisely Hermeticism. Now, being Jupiter, a very spiritual planet here, crossing the starry image of Taurus, gives an impulse towards this direction. Now, this is the chart of Jupiter's ingress in Gemini on May 26, and as you can see, Jupiter is here entering Gemini, yes, but in the starry image of Taurus, so this ancient Egyptian spiritual impulse that we mentioned. Now, Jupiter is going to be in conjunction with the Pleiades, by the way, because the Pleiades are marking 0 degrees Gemini, and this means that any planet entering Gemini is at the same time in conjunction with the Pleiades. And as you can see in the chart, Jupiter is making 3 very important aspects, which we're going to talk about in further detail. And we have, first of all, Jupiter is still in this chart in conjunction with Uranus. Then, as you can see, entering Gemini, Jupiter is making a trine with Pluto, because we know that Pluto entered recently Aquarius again. And so we find in the very early degrees of Aquarius are Pluto. But not only that, as you can see, we have like Neptune making 2 sextiles here, one with Jupiter and the other with Pluto, like closing this trine in a so-called minor grand trine, which is precisely that. You have a trine and 2 sextiles closing it. Now, in general, we can say that these transits are not stabilizing. On the contrary, they can be very sudden, and they can destabilize overall the collective unconscious. And we're going to talk about them in a second, but I want you to notice this other element in the chart, because as if that wasn't enough, Mars in the chart at the moment of the Jupiter's ingress in Gemini, Mars is in Aries, so a very strong and fiery Mars, the god of war, and it is still in conjunction with the North Node, so this is not going to help in this regard. However, there are some minor mitigations in the chart, because Jupiter, at least, is in conjunction with Venus, which is a benefic planet, and Venus, she's the goddess of balance and beauty. And Venus, by the way, is creating a mutual reception with Gemini. So what's that? It means that they are working together. And why is that? Because Venus is in Gemini, and Gemini is the zodiac sign of Mercury. And at the same time, Mercury is in Taurus, and Taurus is the zodiac sign of Venus. So Venus and Mercury, they are working together here. They are trying to stabilizing a situation through basically discussions, trying to mediate the situation. But we have a very, very powerful, a very intense drive towards change, rebellion, and revolution. So we can now take a closer look to these 3 aspects that Jupiter is making, this conjunction with Uranus, this trine with Pluto, and this sextile with Neptune, to understand what all these basically means. Now, Here you can see the aspects that Jupiter is making in 2024 and 2025. So we have two tables, and they represent exactly what we were mentioning here. So 2024, you have the 12 months of 2024, and as you can see, between April and June, you have these three aspects, like creating this super intense drive towards change and revolution. Now, starting from April, as you can see, this sort of yellow triangle, this is the first wave, and it represents the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Now, the peak is expected for April, and April, we can say it is not at all a stable month, as we're going to see. And then we have in late May the ingress of Jupiter in Gemini with these two aspects, like basically continuing this conjunction and creating like a single wave, I would say, that is going to last until mid-June for sure. Now, on top of that, Jupiter in 2024 will also make two squares with Saturn, and you can see them here. They are these red squares, and these are going to be important at least to understand how things will unfold in 2025, because 2025 features the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which will be decisive for international and geopolitical balance. So let's take a closer look to these three aspects of Jupiter with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, starting, of course, with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that will take place with Jupiter still in Taurus in the month of April. Now, April is one of the most unstable months of the year. And this is because we have the two eclipses, one of March 25 and the other on April 8. And during these eclipses, we have the return of Pons-Brooks comet, which is a periodic comet. It is also called the Devil's Comet, not as a promising name. And we're going to talk about it in a dedicated video on the eclipses. And on top of that, during April, Mercury is going to turn retrograde from April 1st to April 25. Now, in general, as we mentioned, the effect of Jupiter is to expand. And so Jupiter is going to expand a planet such as Uranus, because this conjunction is going to basically expand Uranus in Taurus. And we know that Uranus is the planet of sudden change, the planet of revolution, the planet of fight for social justice. And this has a very destabilizing effect on everything connected to Taurus energy. Because in general, Taurus would be a very stable zodiac sign, right? But with Uranus in the sign and Jupiter expanding the effects brought about by Uranus, this is not the case. Now, this means that this conjunction is going to affect Taurus things, so it is going to affect the land, the environment, but also natural resources, also money and the economy in general. So it is not recommended to take too many risks during April, because we are going to experience collectively this shift, starting with April, of course, but it is going to continue until at least mid-June. Now, on the positive side, the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus represents the beginning of a new cycle. This cycle lasts 13 years, and this cycle represents basically the application of technology to nature, to natural resources, to the management of nature, and it certainly gives a boost to the green economy as well. It also provides new ideas and impulses towards environmental control engineering. Also with Taurus, the food industry. And in terms of money and technology, we have cryptocurrencies benefiting from this transit. So basically, any form of technology that manages nature, the environment, food, and money are going to be affected by this new beginning, which is the beginning of this new overall 13 years cycle. Now, let's look at the other two aspects of Jupiter taking place between May and June. So we have the trine with Pluto and the sextile with Neptune. And of course, the most important one here is the trine with Pluto. And why is that? Because as you know, at the end of January, Pluto entered Aquarius, and it was one of the most important transits of the year. Now, some minor transits, such as Jupiter changing sign, it happens every year, they represent an activation of like greater things. And Jupiter making a trine to Pluto is basically activating all the general significations of Pluto in Aquarius that we talked about before in a dedicated video. And in fact, I'm going to leave the link in the description box to the dedicated video about Pluto in Aquarius, because in this video, we don't have the time to really take a look at what Pluto in Aquarius means. But in general, we can say that this new impulse of science that we mentioned, so science and technology applied to nature, this is also fueling the research and new technologies applied in nuclear power. So I am talking here specifically about new nuclear fusion technologies that scientists are developing now. So this trine is going to give an oomph in the, in the overall research in this field. Now, from a social perspective, the empowerment of Pluto in Aquarius by Jupiter has to do with revolutions, protests, these riots. And why is that? Because Jupiter in Gemini, as we mentioned in the beginning of this video, creates networks, interconnection, making easier to organize these protests. And I do believe that they are going to explode from April to like mid-June, because we have this umbrella, this chain of transits that are pointing in the same direction. Because first, we have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And so we have this wave, this destabilizing wave of protests that goes towards this direction of, social justice. But then we have a similar flavor with the trine made by Jupiter in Gemini to Pluto in Aquarius, because Pluto in Aquarius is all about the revolution. And remember that Pluto in Aquarius is the very zodiacal placement of the French Revolution. So together, Jupiter in Gemini enhancing interconnection and like making it easier for people to connect, basically fueling this other major transit. Well, we can expect an increase in this wave of protests that have already started, by the way, right? So we will see what's going to happen in April, because we have so many things going on that definitely April is going to prepare the ground for this other major transit. And what about Jupiter making a sextile to Neptune? Now, Neptune is very different. Neptune is the planet of idealism, and it is also connected to the collective unconscious emotions, right? So Neptune usually brings emotional waves in the collective unconscious. And this means that Jupiter is going not only to trigger revolutions, but it is also going to give them this idealistic flavor and also a quite strong emotional component. Now, this being said, as you can see, we're getting ready for one of the most important steps of 2024 happening between April and June. And on top of that, as you may know, with Pluto and Aquarius, we have to keep an eye on France. And so I took a look at the astrocartography of Jupiter's ingress in Gemini, because I wanted to see where in the world this ingress was basically stronger. Basically, with astrocartography, with all these lines that you see here, we have the opportunity to see where in the world a transit is taking place on one of the 4 angles of the chart: ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and IC, the bottom of the sky. And they are the strongest points of a chart. Now, as you can see here in this chart, we have the line of Jupiter in the ascendant and the line of Jupiter on the IC, the bottom of the sky. They are crossing in Europe. And this is very interesting because this means that Europe is going to be affected more by this revolutionary impulse brought about this trine that we've been talking about. And so we will have to keep an eye on France even more in this regard to see if we're going to have again a very explicit effect. I am thinking about now about the first ingress of Pluto in Aquarius during 2023. This was a short ingress. It was like just for 3 months. Pluto entered Aquarius, but in those 3 months, like, France was all over the place because so many riots were going on. If I remember correctly, it was because of the pension system that they wanted to change. And so we had a lot of protests going on. And so we need to monitor France to see what's going to happen on a major scale. Because again, Pluto in Aquarius was the very transit of the French Revolution. So we can look at France as an example or as an indicator in this regard. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.